chapter 8, verse 14 says, unto 2,300 days, and the sanctuary shall be cleansed. In other words, all of the sins that went into the sanctuary through the blood, eventually those sins had to be cleansed from the sanctuary. Notice Leviticus chapter 16, verses 20 to 22. This is what happened on the Day of Atonement. And this is a very important point. And when he has made an end of atoning for the holy place, that is, of atoning for the sanctuary, let me ask you, the scapegoat ceremony, did that take place after the sanctuary had been cleansed, or did it take place before the sanctuary was cleansed? After the sanctuary was cleansed. After the first goat had been sacrificed and died. The first goat represents the sacrifice of Jesus. In other words, after the first goat was sacrificed for the sins of the people, the high priest cleansed the sanctuary, and then he came to the second goat. So it says, and when he has made an end of atoning for the holy place, the tabernacle of meeting, and the altar, he shall bring the what kind of goat? The live goat. So whatever is done with this goat is not dying for sin. This goat is what? Alive. And without shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Verse 21. Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat. Confess over it all the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their transgressions concerning all their sins, putting them on the head of the goat. Let me ask you, which iniquities, which transgressions, and which sins was he placing on the head of the scapegoat? All of those that he was bringing from where? From the sanctuary that had been deposited there all year. And by putting his hands on the head of the goat and confessing the sins on the head of the goat, what is he doing? He's transferring the sins to Azazel, the live scapegoat. And it says, putting them on the head of the goat, and shall send it away into where? Into the wilderness. So where was he sent? Into the wilderness. Notice, by the hand of a what? Of a suitable man. There was a special person chosen to take him to the wilderness. The goat shall bear on itself, notice this, all the iniquities to what? An uninhabited land. A wilderness and a what? Uninhabited land. In other words, a place where there was no one living. And he shall release the goat in the wilderness. Now let me ask you, what happened with the sins of those who had not placed their sins in the sanctuary? Those who had not actually repented of sin and confessed their sins. Were all of those sins placed on the head of the scapegoat? No. Notice Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23. Those who did not claim, listen to this, this is important. Those who did not claim the blood of the Lord's goat, those who did not confess sin and repent of sin and have their sin go into the sanctuary covered by the blood, those individuals suffered the penalty for their own sins. Their sins were not placed on the head of the scapegoat. In other words, they died for their own sins. Notice Leviticus 23 and verses 29 and 30, where it says this very clearly. For any person who is not afflicted in soul on that same day shall be cut off from his people. And any person who does any work on that same day, that person I will what? Destroy from among his people. So it was only all of the sins that entered into the sanctuary through the blood, sins that had repented of, the people had repented of and confessed, that were placed upon the head of the scapegoat. And then the scapegoat was sent out into the wilderness to a non-inhabited land. What was God trying to teach through this?